Hey guys, and welcome back to another Doctor Who action figure review. In today's review, I'm going to be taking a look at the companions of the 3rd and 4th Doctor set, which is exclusive to B&M Stores in the UK. These were very kindly sent to me to review by Character Options, but they are now hitting shelves across the country, so time to start hunting your local B&Ms. So this is a refresh of the set that came out towards the end of July, beginning of August sort of time. As you can see, it's all new variants of the 3 companions featured in that set. That's Sarah Jane Smith, Romana I and Romana II. And just like that first set, these figures are absolutely fantastic. I'll go through them all in a sec, but for now, let's take a look at the packaging. So as ever, the figures come packaged in the standard window box with the TARDIS on the side. It features the gold foil limited edition sticker, and then the back of the box gives us a look at the 3 figures inside. So out of the box, the figures look fantastic. These were such a wonderful surprise. I remember when the first set came out and it was leaked that there was going to be a follow-up set. I remember thinking to myself, I wonder what versions they're going to do of each of these characters. Now, in my first review, I did say I thought we'd probably see a Horns of Nyman Romana come out, and here we have her. But for the other 2 figures, I was really not sure. And I gotta say, the Sarah Jane Smith in particular was a surprise, as well as the new tooling on the first Romana. So let's go chronologically and start off with Sarah Jane Smith. This is Sarah Jane Smith as she appeared in The Monster of Peladon with John Pertwee. Now, obviously, there are a few discrepancies with the sculpt here, namely the longer hair, which is what she had when she was with the 4th Doctor, and the buttoned-up leather jacket. Now, in terms of the head sculpt, well, the sculpt of the face and the hair is absolutely fantastic. It's the same sculpt that was used on the previous set, and I know a few people were a bit disappointed that they didn't give Sarah the shorter hair, but that would have meant new tooling for the shorter hair. So I can understand why they went with what they had. The paint apps on the face are really well done, very neat and tidy. It's a great likeness for Sarah. She has got a little bit of a moulding issue on her chin. Either that or Sarah Jane had spotty chin skin that day. But that's a very minor nitpick that you can barely see. She's wearing a leather jacket. It's the same jacket that she was wearing on the previous figure. Now, in that story, she never wears the jacket done up. You can see she's got like a sweater on underneath. What character have done is they have opted to use the same tooling again, just for cost reasons. And instead, you can see they've just painted the slight hint of a jumper underneath, which I think is a nice touch. And you just have to pretend that perhaps at one point in the story that didn't make it to camera, Sarah did a jacket up because it was particularly cold on Peladon. And to try and add a few little extra details, you can see they've added these brown lines around the edges of the jacket just to kind of make it seem like that's a zip that's been done up there. Honestly, it doesn't bother me that the sculpt isn't 100% accurate to what we see on screen. Kind of like I said with the previous Sarah Jane, the fact that we're getting these figures is just amazing in itself. I've seen a few people get a bit disappointed because they were like, well, why didn't they do this version of Sarah? Or if they used these body parts, they could have done this version of Sarah. Well, the trouble is, you have to put yourself in the mind of the people at character. You don't have all of the budgets and the limitations to work with when you're saying that. We don't know what they're working with. It's worth pointing out that some of the tooling, when people say, why didn't they use this with this, doesn't actually either A, exist anymore, or B, work together. The Doctor Who line isn't a line like Masters of the Universe Classics, or Masters of the Universe Origins, or DC Universe Classics, or Marvel Legends to an extent, where all the body parts are sort of made to be reused on other figures. This line wasn't devised like that. So unfortunately, it's very easy for us to say, why didn't you? But we don't know, A, if those things work, and B, if the budget allows that to happen. It may mean that some of these variants that people are talking about will happen, just not at this time, because every year, they are allocated a certain amount of money to do certain things. And as you can see, she's got different legs to the previous Sarah Jane. She's got the long boots, which is the same for all of the figures in this set. They've all got the same lower half. And she's got the brownish sort of suede velvet trousers on like she wears in the episode. And her boots have been painted a sort of light off brown greyish colour just to match. And overall, I think it works really well. And what's extra nice about this is, of course, earlier in the year, back in January, I think it was, we actually got the 3rd Doctor from The Monster of Peladon. So now we have Sarah Jane Smith to go with that. So next, let's take a look at Romana. This was a wonderful surprise because when the last figure came out, I remember saying that I thought that was the weaker one of the set. That wasn't to say that it was a bad figure, far from it. I just thought that compared to the others, the sculpt didn't quite match the source material as well, and I was really confused as to what they would do to make another Romana. So I was very surprised and very pleased to see that they've used some new tooling on the torso. As you can see, she's got her red jacket on that she wears in The Power of Kroll. Now, the base body is a Sarah Jane Adventures Sarah, and it's just got that new PVC piece over the top. And it works so well. And I do wonder if there's actually going to be any reuse value for this, or if this is just going to be a one-time only thing. Either way, I think she looks amazing. The head sculpt, just like I said about the previous version, is such a good sculpt. I absolutely love the expression on her face, that slightly raised eyebrow, like she's taking no nonsense from the Doctor. I love it. The hair sculpt is absolutely beautiful. As you can see around the back, all of the curls and the paint apps over this with this darker wash over the brown really makes that sculpt stand out. And what you've probably noticed from the promotional images, the hair sits lower on her head compared to the last figure, which I prefer. I think it looks a lot better. Not to say that the other one didn't, but I think it just seems a bit more natural. I don't know why that changed. I can only assume that because of the nature of the torso piece being used on the other version, the hair had to sit slightly higher. So that isn't the case here, and I think it works ever so well, and it's an absolutely lovely version of Mary Tamm's Romana. Brilliant head sculpt and lovely paint apps, very neat and crisp. So then moving down to the new torso piece, this has been cast in this sort of brick red orange colour, really, really nice. There's some great detailing around the shoulder areas, and of course this black waistband and the zip going up the middle, which has been painted in silver. It's a very dull silver, so it's not quite so bright and vibrant as, say, the silver on the Daleks, but I think that's fine. I think if it was too silver, it might look a bit odd. And then the rest of her costume is just a simple black paint job. The wristwatch on her hand has also been painted black. Romana didn't wear one, but obviously this is the Sarah Jane sculpt being used here. So rather than just leave it flesh coloured, they've painted it black, which I prefer. I think that works much better. And then moving down to the legs. Like I said, same legs as the Sarah Jane Smith figure, and these have been painted black, with the boots looking ever so slightly shinier than the trousers. So overall, I'm really thrilled that we've got another version of the first Romana. This now means we have two figures from season 16. So there we are, we've gone all this time without any figures from that season, and then all of a sudden we've got two in 1 year. Fantastic. Now let's move on to the final figure, which is the second Romana, Lala Ward. So like I said, I kind of guessed that this was a version that we would probably see. Didn't expect it to be quite so soon. But wow, what a lovely figure. I mean, like I said before, the head sculpt is excellent. It's so obviously Lala Ward. It's a really, really fantastic sculpt. The hair sculpting is really lovely and crisp, and the paint apps here really accentuate the sculpt. That darker colour with the lighter blonde wash over the top, it just looks phenomenal. And all of the paint apps on her face are excellent, very neat and crisp. And then we move down to the coat, which is the same Sarah Jane Adventures coat that was used on the previous Romana, this time cast in this beautiful, vibrant red. It looks absolutely gorgeous. And you can see they've tried to add a few additional details just by using paint apps. So you've got the buttons painted on in a darker sort of burgundy red on the front, and then a couple on the back. Obviously, the real coat didn't have things like the buckles on the cuffs or the belt, but that's just something that you have to ignore and just think to yourself, well, I'd rather have that than have no figure at all. Then, of course, we come to the other part of the costume, which you can't really see because of the way the coat hangs, so you have to kind of peel the coat back a bit, and that is the white cravat and the waistcoat. Now, I did wonder how they were going to do this, and they have just used paint apps to try and make the suggestion that there's something underneath there. So as you can see, it does sit on the existing sculpt from the Sarah Jane Smith figure. So you've got the kind of frilly trim that's going across the middle of her chest, which is from Sarah Jane's top. Honestly, I don't mind that they've just done this with paint apps. I think it actually works quite well. Obviously, people would have much preferred a new torso piece, but of course, again, we come down to this thing about budget and new tooling and trying to use pre-existing sculpts. And honestly, I think it looks absolutely fine. If it's something that bothers you, then you can't really see it with the coat on anyway. And then moving into the trousers, these have been cast in beige, and the boots have been painted a slightly glossy black. And then to finish it off, Romana has her riding gloves, which are a slightly darker sort of burgundy red, the same as the buttons on the coat. And all in all, it makes for a rather lovely looking version of Romana. In terms of articulation, the three figures share a lot of the same body parts, and as such, the articulation is the same across all three characters. So if we just take Sarah Jane, they have articulation at the neck to swivel around, swivel joints at the shoulders, swivel joints at the biceps, elbows, at the wrists, at the waist, swivel joints at the hips so they can move forward and be pushed out to the side like so, swivel joints at the thighs, and also at the knees to allow the knees to pivot. And like I said, that is the same articulation for all three figures, including Romana I, who doesn't want to stand up. There we go. We started the year with no Romanas, no young Sarah Jane Smiths from the classic series, and now we've got two, which is absolutely fantastic. Honestly, I'm really thrilled with all of them. I think you could say that the Monster of Peladon Sarah was the weakest out of the set, but to be honest, I'm just so pleased that we're getting to see new companions in the classic series range. It's just absolutely fantastic. Now, I say this every time whenever I review new classic figures, and particularly when I see people get quite funny about, oh, they didn't use this version, or when they do this Sarah Jane. If you'd have given me these figures when I was 8 years old playing with Dapol, I'd have been bloody thrilled. I'd have gone, I couldn't give a shit that bloody Sarah Jane's hair's the wrong length or she's got a jacket done up. Who gives a toss? Sarah Jane from the Monster of Peladon. Brilliant. Yeah, so there we go. A fantastic set of figures to complement the previous releases. A massive thank you to Character Options for sending these over to me to review. And yes, happy hunting. I hope you managed to get hold of a set. They should be arriving in stores now. And I'll see you all next time for my next review. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.